It looks like we're good to go on my end.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. We are live. We had some technical issues going live last week, so we just said a little prayer that it would work, and it worked. Super excited to be here today with my very good friend, Rachel Gill, who is saving the day. We had a last minute scheduling change, and we were going to be interviewing Rachel in September because while she's a very, very familiar face to many of us in the association, Rachel has a new role, and we're very excited to learn about that. So welcome and thank you very much, Rachel.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. It's a different feeling being on this end of it after a couple years of being the interviewer. So I went into it thinking I'm way more nervous when I'm interviewing, when I'm doing the interviewing until like right now. And right. I'm like, definitely more nerve-wracking to be on this end of it.
Yeah, I think so too. I like kind of being in control. Everyone's like, why haven't you done an interview? I'm like, because I would have to like relinquish my very big control issue if I did that. But thank you once again. Like, I really appreciate you always stepping in to save the day, whether it's interviewing or being the interviewee. So thank you. Before we dive into your interview though, I'm super excited to talk about a couple of things, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So in a very friendly way, of course. But I wanted to say thank you on behalf of the GCNKAA to everyone who participated this week in the Business Exchange event. We had about 140 participants or so combined between our primary and associate members. And listen, full transparency, it was a little bumpy at the beginning. If you can imagine, it was our first big virtual event. Our staff at the GCNKAA hosted it alone, no outside production companies and big to-dos. They did everything with the resources that we had. And everyone really just gave us the best patience and grace they could possibly give us. Again, it was like a rough, probably 20 minutes or so at the very beginning, but then it got into the rhythm. We figured it out. We did what we do. We were joking around like, I don't know what we expected. This is property management. How many days have you ever showed up doing whatever you do for property management and what you plan to happen actually happens? Not one for me. So hindsight, I was like, what did we expect? It's property management. We made the best of it. We had some really random fun times. And Rachel, attending on behalf of the associate side, I would love to just invite you to share some in-the-moment feedback about the event.
Sure. You're right. It was a little bumpy at first. From the supplier side, there's so much preparation that goes into that event. So there's already some kind of jittery nerves and everything. But once we kind of got through the bumps, and even during that, I think, like you said, immediately everyone was so gracious, because I think all of us could just feel, kind of what was happening and what can we all do together, which is so cohesive with the industry that we're in. Like, let's all figure this out together. There's a way to make this work. And after that, it was amazing. I mean, just being able to have that time with my customers, that one-on-one FaceTime, and to know ahead of time, to be able to be so prepared. Sometimes at the networking events, you're holding a glass of wine and you're not quite sure where the conversation goes, but we were really able to lead the conversations. And it was just great. I mean, the primary members are so incredibly gracious with these events, because I can only imagine what it's like to hear 15 sales pitches in the matter of like an hour, maybe an hour and a half or so. So they all were just so friendly and so engaging and so interested the whole time. And really just another testament to our association and the commitment they have to service to their primary members and to us. It was lovely. And quite frankly, there's a silver lining in everything. And I missed a couple meetings. Guess what that means? That means I get to continue conversation with those people, follow up, take them out to another lunch and have a longer conversation. And we already have some small talk to talk about now. So really, there's just always a silver lining, and there will never be a time when the associates won't be eager to do whatever we can to be involved with that event. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. That is so gratifying to hear. As one of the co-chairs, we took it very personally and worked really hard. And I know on behalf of everyone who participated in the committee, we really wanted this to be an impactful and meaningful event. We value your time and appreciate all of the support that our association has received forever, but especially through this pandemic. And It means a lot hearing that, Rachel. Thank you very much. And we are going to send out a survey, and we invite all of the feedback. And we're not just looking for pats on the back, critical feedback as well. Who knows how long we're going to operate in this new virtual reality. And so these kinds of events need to be, you know, precise, they need to be impactful, and we're here for you. So please don't hesitate to say, you know, exactly what kind of experience you had, because our goal, as always, is to support you and your business or your company, your investment in this industry. And so we can only do that when we know how to provide you with what is impactful for your service and business. So thank you again. I do want to just make a couple of other quick little GCNKA announcements, because it is exciting. It was so refreshing to be back in front of faces, familiar faces. And even though it was different than, you know, sharing a glass of wine or having a lunch with someone, it was just so nice to see everyone and be back together. We're going to do a virtual GMM in September. We're working on that now, so be on the lookout. Very soon, you're going to get an email to register for this virtual event, and we're working on getting a national speaker as well. So it'll be much like the GMM. I don't know if we're going to invite everyone to eat their virtual dinner on camera with one another, but it's going to be a really great meeting, and we're excited for that. And I heard through the grapevine, I think we actually announced it. Don Bruner announced this at the Business Exchange. So I'm going to say it. The golf outing, the fall golf outing, it's on, y'all. It's going to be different. There are certainly going to be some restrictions and a little bit of alterations on part of what we're able to do and how we convene for that event. And I'm sure very limited space in light of the fact that the course can only accommodate so much. But please be on the lookout. Michelle is going to be sending out information as soon as it's all finalized. It's not solidified yet in terms of what can, you know, capacity support and things like that. But be on the lookout and be encouraged that we are finding ways to get back together again while being safe and while being mindful. And please know and understand, we respect your position. If you're not comfortable being in person and you're not comfortable, you know, getting out on the course just yet, that's fine. There are still opportunities to stay engaged and to support one another through our virtual events and other opportunities that we're working on. So super exciting. Wanted to share all of that, but do not want to wait 1 second longer to get into our discussion, Rachel. So I'd love to just kind of ask you to take a moment, as we always do when we're interviewing others, and just share a little bit about who you are and what you're doing today in your new role.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I am in a new role with a valet doorside waste removal service. And as I think almost everyone knows watching this, the pandemic brought on some unexpected changes for most of us. And I was in a position to make a career change. And I knew immediately that I wanted to stay in this industry, and I started kind of exploring some options. And my former company actually let go more than just me. There were several people, and another company saw some interest in all of us. So as I was looking locally in our industry for some jobs, the CEO of Greenway reached out to me, and we had some conversations, and it immediately excited me. I found out it was just an industry or a part of this industry that I didn't know a ton about, but I got really excited about it. And I've been with Greenway now since June 1st, and there's a learning curve, as there is with anything, but I'm loving it. I think most of us are at a point in this facet of the industry where we're kind of aware of what valet trash is to the apartment communities, but each of us operates a little bit differently. And I'm really proud of what our company's able to offer and what they're allowing me to do in this market. I cover all of Ohio and Northern Kentucky, and it's just a blast. Our team is really great. And I think the best part for me is I think I really kind of pride myself on being a partner to my customers. And that means that I'm not going to come and sell a product that I genuinely, truly don't believe is the right product for your property. If I'm not calling on you, it's probably because I know it's not the best fit for your property. But I really believe in it. It's really fun. It's exciting to learn a new skill and a new product. And I'm here if anybody has any questions about it. Like
That's
I said,
exciting.
yeah, my title is regional account executive, and I have all of Ohio. So, you know, if you run into me or you have some properties outside of the Cincinnati area, we're a national company and our team is relatively small. You know, we can go anywhere, and it's some new markets for me. So I'm kind of having fun learning about Columbus and Cleveland and what's going on in those cities, as well as what's always happening here in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky.
And there's a lot going on in both of those cities. So that's
Oh yeah.
exciting. Your
Yeah, there's a lot.
territory is Ohio. So
Mhm.
listen, I know that you probably have made connections with a lot of people, but being in a brand new role for 3 short months now, there might be some folks out there who don't know how to get in touch with you with your new email address. Do you mind sharing, just in case anybody's like, hey, I just want to say hello or touch base? What's
Absolutely.
your new email address?
It's just Rachel Gill, RachelGill at greenwaywaste.com. And if you're watching this video, odds are you are kind of familiar with our Facebook page at the association. And lately I've been out there, so I'm really easy to find there too. So feel free to call, text, email, message me on Facebook. I don't know that you'll find people more excited than brand new employees to really share their business. So I would love to talk about it.
Well, that's exciting. I've already booked you a slot to come speak to our team here very soon. So we're excited about that. And I appreciate what you're doing in light of what's going on. Many of us are still, you know, not meeting in the same manner that we've grown up in this business meeting, and we're doing virtual events. So you offered to virtually join a meeting with my team, which I thought was really appropriate and very, very helpful for our format these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if that's an option, that's always, you know, at least a good thing to ask your customers, your clients. You never want to make anyone feel too uncomfortable. And in this day and age, there's nothing wrong with asking for permission first. It immediately shows that you're a true partner. And, you know, the last thing that anyone wants to do is make someone feel like we're being too aggressive or uncomfortable or anything like that. So, and it's so easy these days. I mean, it's crazy. Zoom. Yesterday, I had a moment where I was like, I'm zoomed out, and I knew I had this school starting, so parent meetings with school and sports, and I just thought, oh my gosh, it's just, you know, it is what
If
it is.
I'm in the same room for too long and the walls start closing in, I'm like, okay, I got to take this outside. I did do a few Zoom meetings outside over the summer, which was really nice. But yeah, I've had that very same Zoom moment. Well, I know you've been in the industry in a couple of different capacities. How long have you been in the apartment industry total?
My first job was on site in 2007, so 13 years. Is that right? Yeah, 13 years total now. And I was on site, give or take 10 years, with some baby leave in between that. So I've been on the supplier side now for about 3.5 years, but I worked for Village Green with Melissa for that entire time. And as a supplier, I don't know that there's a bigger asset to my job than having the experience of having in so many different capacities. Back then, Village Green, you know, there were some suburban sites, there were some tax credit sites, and I got an opportunity to work on all of those. And I'll tell you what, that experience there, you know, there's just, it can be so relatable to talk to a property manager as a supplier. And I can come in saying like, you're not going to get XYZ for me because I've sat in your shoes before, So if you just want to talk about something completely unrelated, let's talk, because I've been there and I still love to talk about it. So
yeah. There's so much value in perspective. There's value in fresh eyes as well, but I deeply appreciate and value when I know that I'm talking to someone who really gets it. And I can tell you in my own experience, I mean, I remember each step before each new role or each new responsibility in this position, I was like, what do they do that I can't do, or that I can't? You don't even know. Like, you literally don't even know. I remember being a little leasing consultant thinking, what's the manager doing? Like painting her nails every day? Like, I could totally do what she's doing. And then you're sitting in that chair like, oh my goodness, what in the world's going on around here?
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, having been in for 13 years, I'm sure you've seen your fair share of goods. What is one of the most funny property management stories or memorable, interesting property management stories you can recall?
I do. I have a ton. And this is my second time doing this interview, and I can remember what I said in the first one, and I'm not going to repeat that one because you all can scroll back through and watch that interview from long ago. But
you were the first live one,
I
remember?
was the first live one,
Yeah.
and I'll just go ahead and say it. Actually, my memory from then was I worked at the banks for 6 years, and at the time, that's where a lot of the athletes, the Bengals and the Reds, were living. So instead of like a specific memory, it was just all of a sudden becoming really good friends with a lot of people I never thought I would meet, and just growing really close with their families. I'm still friends with a couple of the wives and kiddos and dogs these days.
Aw.
Those were great relationships. But I thought about this question, and again, I don't have a specific one because there really are so many, and I mean, it runs the gamut of
Right.
there's just so much. But I thought about it today, and I think one thing that I miss from being on site, I can look back on all the different sites I worked at, and those people were my best friends at the time, and we are still friends. But I just think of all the different people that I've worked with over the years, and we're still friends. But when you're in that leasing office with them all the time, I mean, we were family. We knew everything about everything. And not to discredit any of those people, but there's such a long list that I go back and think like, gosh, we were such good friends, and oh, I'd love to see her, and I wonder how this guy's doing. And that's really what I take away, especially from my on-site time, is those relationships that I built, and with some of my residents. It's the most memorable to me. It's really what sticks out to me.
That is what makes this business so much fun. And I'm sure regardless of the side that you're on, the relationships that you form. And I have to think that no other industry could possibly be the same. You couldn't,
Right.
I know there might be a group of people in every industry that you work with so closely, but like for us, it's our customers live with us, and our lives depend on our partnerships, and our clients' lives depend on their partnership with us. And it's so intimate, and I can't even think of a comparable industry. So I love those memories.
I think about, especially because we have social media now, so we can kind of keep up with everyone. And
Mhm.
I see like kids that I remember the day they came home from the hospital because they were my resident or my coworker, or, new pets that are now, there's just so many milestones that you get to experience
Right.
firsthand every day in this industry that, it's just so special, and it's a huge family.
We're so fortunate. We really are. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, through the blood, sweat, and tears, like at the end of the day, we really have such fascinating opportunities every day. So, well,
Great.
thank you. Okay, so one last question before we get into getting to know you a little bit more on a personal level. What advice would you offer up to folks who are just getting involved in this industry?
This is a tricky question for me, and it's tricky because I've asked that so many times when I've been sitting in your seat, and and I've never disagreed with the answer that someone's given, because there's so much good advice, but they all pretty much say the same thing. And I have to agree. They really talk about continue your education, networking, being flexible, all those things that you want to put on a resume are deeply personally important in this industry. As I mentioned, I lost my previous job due to this pandemic, and the first person I called was Mark Franks at the association. And it's not because Mark Franks is my best friend in the whole world, although I love you, Mark. Because the wheels immediately started spinning. I knew I wanted to stay in the industry, and I needed to be connected right away. And I knew I had that connection there because I've invested myself and my time into this networking association. And, not just through networking, not just through social events. I have taken the classes in the association. I've scheduled meetings with mentors. And when it really came down to it, it meant something. It was real. It really, there wasn't a hesitation with me. I immediately thought, okay, I know that I want to stay in this industry. I know kind of what I want to do. Let me call Mark. And he answered right away. We talked forever. We spoke several times until I landed my job. So it's hard to communicate effectively until it happens to you, how important it is to really stay connected and continue to your education and invest in yourself. And this is in this industry and in life. Be your biggest advocate.
Yeah.
Don't, it will take you miles and miles in life if you are sure to just stand up for yourself.
I'm sure you've heard me say this because that advice is incredibly sage. And it's something I learned later in my career. I was so focused on just working hard and doing my job and learning the, the boxes that I had to check and learning everything and doing all of the things that I was responsible for doing. I didn't place the emphasis in the networking. I've always been involved with the association. And I remember, being part of events and things like that. And I've known Mark since I was literally like a teenager. When I first started in the business, I met him immediately. But I didn't place the value that you speak of going to the events and networking and meeting with people and sitting down and talking to people, even if they're not someone you could provide your current service to today. And, probably 6 or 7 years ago, when I became more stationary in this geographical area and I joined, committees and got on the board and started making this really a very important part of my career, the difference is undeniable. Personally, professionally, it has just, it really does change everything when you get connected and you learn from people. I've learned from you and Abby Huffman specifically the value of networking. No one does it better than you two. And it's not even because you think you're going to sell someone something. It's because you understand the value of relationships and networking and the support system that we have because of that, whether it's, I need a service, I'm going to pick up and call who I know to call, or it's a pandemic and I need just support, or I need, a night to go vent about all the things that are life in a pandemic and child, care and personal issues and like all of those things. So it really, for me, hearing that kind of advice, I don't care how long you've been in the business, how new you are to the business. I think pound for pound, letter for letter, that is the absolute best advice you could possibly get to be in this industry. So.
Well, and I have to add to that, just to put it in perspective, I think about this a lot. I remember, I think it was last year at Dave Lockard's State of the Industry. It was in person, if we can remember those days.
I know, right?
Together.
Those were the days.
Yeah. But I remember I had a moment, and in the Oasis, I know that year there were more than 400 people that attended. And I looked around the room at the tables and I knew almost everyone there. And I thought, this is impactful. And it's not because I'm bragging or anything. It just felt like, wow, I've put in this work. I've invested myself, my personal life, my professional, persona, and I could go to any table and, just have a great conversation, both personally and professionally. And it's, I think just to put a number on it, to someone who's just like, oh, I don't really like the networking part of it. I just, like I said, I can't stress enough how impactful it is, especially here in this market, because it is one humongous tight-knit family.
Absolutely. And it's so different here. I've been around 2 other associations and what we have is different in the very best way. So, all right, well, let's shift gears because I'm excited to talk to you a little bit on a personal level. And I'd love to just start out with my favorite question, because I know it's so deeply personal to everyone, but tell us about your family.
I have 2 girls, Sophia and Maya. They are getting ready to start 5th grade and 3rd grade. They will be 11 and 9 in October. So they keep me really, really busy, sports and academics. And I have to say this because it just happened last night, but I got an email from school. Sophia, my oldest daughter, was accepted into the gifted program at school.
Wow, that's so exciting. She's a voracious reader too. Every time I see pictures of her, she's like reading something different.
She is. So it was a moment where I got the email and the first feeling was excitement because I wanted to tell her. I knew it was a goal that she had set for herself. And then the pride still today is just overflowing. Parenting is a funny dance sometimes, and the questioning of the decisions you're making can get the best of you. And then you have these little moments like this where you think, we've done it right and we've got good kids, and I am just beyond proud of her. And then Maya,
congratulations. That's super exciting.
It's huge. It's so,
it really is.
The most proud of her is she knew it was a possibility. She's 10, and so she set a personal goal, and there were some things she had to do to work towards getting into this program, and she did it. So it's just,
what an incredible life lesson and what an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, it was to see that. So
No, I was just going to ask, what do you guys like to do in your spare time, if you have any, with all of their activities? I know you've got so many sports and things that you do with them, but what do you guys like to do in your spare time?
Prior to the pandemic, we did not have spare time because
Right.
they're both multi-sport kids and were really involved in their school. So the pandemic really gave us the opportunity to kind of reel it in and spend some time together and play games and do puzzles. And I personally, I dabble in photography, so that's always been a hobby of mine. And um, luckily, my girls are still, I don't know how much longer I have, willing participants. I don't know if that will last longer, subjects, if you will. But so yeah, I mean, that's part of the fun of being a parent is free time is like an opportunity for new adventure. I know you and there's just so many fun things that you can do just because you have your kids, and so many places to explore. So we spend a lot of time with extended family, and school starts next week. So this weekend is another jam-packed weekend full of fun things to try to get it all done before school starts. But I think we've learned to make the most of our time with this pandemic. So
Well, I've told you this before, but my son just turned 9, so he and Maya are about the same age. And I remember when you were pregnant with Sophia, and I was trying to have my son for so long. And I've always kind of watched you and looked up to you. I think you're just such a great parent and so
thank you.
open-minded and so organized. And I've kind of aspired to reach that level of motherhood. So I commend you for what you do. And you don't just make it all about perfection too. You're like, here's my most insane moment of the week. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not a colossal failure because
Yeah.
Rachel messed up too, or Rachel said this,
Yeah.
but I really just appreciate and love. And on social media, obviously it's easy to make things look perfect, which makes those of us who are far from it feel very inadequate. But like literally from the word go, when your babies came home from the hospital, you've kind of documented, and your photography, I'm sure, has inspired you to share so much of their life. And especially during this pandemic, you were making charts and you were doing things and you were talking about what worked and what didn't work and what
Right.
you're about today and what isn't important today, and all of those things. So I just wanted to say, like, you've really inspired me. And
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you.
I
I
don't know
have
what I would
great
do without
intentions.
real
Yeah.
life role models.
Yeah. The intentions are always good with the charts and the organization, but full disclosure, rarely do they pan out into real life. We'll do it for a day, or I'll just use them as disciplinary tools. I'll say, remember what the chart says?
Right. Well, even knowing that is very helpful, because if I didn't know you the way that I know you, I don't know if I would know that.
No, gosh, no.
I'd be like, everyone's perfect and their parenting ability, except for me, because I am in no way, shape, or form prepared or capable of putting together those kinds of things.
Well, let's circle back in 2 more years when I have a 13-year-old, and we'll see if I even am smiling at
There
that.
you go. That's so funny. Well, I know, speaking of reading, and your daughter loves to read, I know you love to read as well. And something else that's really funny is, like, you've inspired me to read a couple of books, like Girl Wash Your Face. I read because you mentioned it, and now I love that author and I follow her on social media and everything. And going to Parky's Farm, you were the first person that I ever saw like check into Parky's Farm, and I'm like, what's that? And now we go very regularly. But what kind of books or what have you found to be interesting over this pandemic, if any?
It's funny. Thank you. Thank you for all of these compliments. The flattery is making me a little brain.
Well, they're all very true, and you know
Thank you. But the funny thing is growing up, I have always been an avid reader, and it's something that I have really encouraged my daughters to do too. I just think there's, obviously such a value in that. But I haven't been able to read that much. I can remember, the books that I still own in my house are books that I've read on vacation or on flights, basically. Yep. But when I became a supplier in this industry, I quickly found that I spend a lot of time in my car.
Oh, yes.
So when I have ran through all the podcasts, which we should add that question to this when we're interviewing.
That is a great idea. Consider it done.
Because that's probably my biggest topic of conversation these days. But anyhow, I have Audible, which is basically an a book app where you listen to it rather than read it. So I don't know if that discredits my education at all, but I haven't read a book in a long time. But I've listened to several books, just because of the nature of my job. I can pretty much finish, you know, a very long book in about 3 days. So I have been on a reading spree, quote unquote reading spree.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I remember talking about Girl Wash Your Face, and I still love that book. And I promise I don't read all like self-help, female empowerment, motivation books. I've read some really good ones, and I share those on my social media too. And I'll put the request out here if anyone has any great books. There's not a lot that I don't like, but I did read recently or listen to Glennon Doyle's Untamed, and I can't not talk about it.
Girl.
It was life-changing.
Lahan is the one who mentioned that one. I
Who
think
did?
she put it on social media, Megan Lahan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I saw it and I was like, I keep seeing this. I need to read it, but
Ugh.
tell me.
So, and by listening to it, she actually, did you listen to it or read it?
Yes. Yeah,
So
I'm an
she
Audible
narrated
person
it
too.
herself, and just hear, it was the same thing with Rachel Hollis, but just, you know, you could hear the passion in her voice, and you know, there's just, she spoke to my soul, and as a woman, it was just brilliant. And one of my favorite things about that book, there were several, is this is not her first book, and she's written other books during different stages in her life. And she's pretty open about how those books were BS, you know, or she was just writing them to kind of churn out some books, and they were serving her audience at that time. But now this is where she is. And it's just so timely. And it was great to read during the pandemic, and as I was starting a new job, and just so many different life changes. I highly recommend. Yeah.
Like, powerful.
Yes.
Every single word was intentional. There
Yeah.
wasn't not a word, not a sentence
Mhm.
that was void. It all was, I would listen to a chapter and I would have to take a minute.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Some of it was so deep and so just powerful. And regardless of where you are, because I liked that she kind of admitted that too.
Mhm.
A lot of us do and say and perform the way we think people expect us to, because that's the path of least resistance. And it was one of the most powerful books that I've ever read. So I was right there with you.
I took so much of it personally, and really, you know, let that affect me in a very positive way. But I think what I took most from that book is her approach to parenting. There were 2 chapters where I thought, I'm going to lay in bed with my daughter, and we're going to listen to this together, because I don't know that I could convey these words to my daughter so beautifully as she did. And I feel exactly the same about so much of it. So yeah.
Agreed. And for me, because you and I have talked about, you know, having kids the same age, and my son in general, just the overarching message of love and acceptance where people are and their
absolutely
being. And so I agree. I think we need a property management book
club. Yes.
On,
yeah.
Especially knowing how many people really share this passion. And with Audible, that is no less reading, by the way. I don't accept that. It is the same.
Yes.
Maybe better.
Yeah. I have to say too about that book, I want to say it so badly, but I can't believe I'm saying it to this wide audience. The other thing that I loved, and it's just because I was telling you, I got like super zoomed out last night. This time of year for me is always one of my most stressful, and it has everything to do with school starting and sports starting. Right. I was very frustrated, you know, like very frustrated last night, and I could feel it. I could feel my irritability. I could feel my stress. And I was thinking, like, how can I alleviate this? And then I kind of remembered that book, and I was like, actually, I'm just going to live in these feelings. I'm going to let myself feel these feelings. And I promise you, rather than like having a drink or doing whatever, it seemed to go so much faster, because I just sat, I acknowledged that I was feeling that way and kind of let it move through me. And that's a funny thing to say to so many strangers, but I promise.
No, it's such good advice. And literally every subject in that book I could relate to personally and professionally, and in a pair, like regardless of how you slice it up and what it, you know, means to you. Like right then I'm with you. And I've said that to Evan, even like, you're allowed to feel what you feel.
Yes.
You can't react how you want to react all the time, but you can feel what you feel. And that spoke to me too. Yes. Well, I love that so much. And being a reader, do you watch much TV, or have you gotten into any good series or seen any good movies lately?
I'm not a huge movie person at all. Um, I get teased a lot because there's just so many movies that I haven't seen. And the ones that I have and that I love they're not profound movies at all. I can quote
Right.
Step Brothers and
Right.
I mean, I'm really
Lighthearted.
good for like a bridesmaids quote, but I have no like, I'm not a movie person. TV wise, I actually don't watch that much TV. It seems like I'm a person that would, but I'm just at that stage of parenting where that kind of dominates. I will
Right.
let myself get sucked into some Netflix series. So I've seen some, all the popular ones right now. And I
Right.
usually binge when I do, but that's
Same.
yeah, it's just not I'm not the person to come to for movie or TV recommendations. With that said, if you all know me on social media, the minute I discover something that's great, I blast it out there because I get so excited about it. So
Right. Well, what about sports? I know we're in this pandemic, not a lot of options these days, but do you follow
right.
sports, and are you a home?
Um, I mean, I guess it's funny because like I referenced before, when I worked at the banks, I was obsessed because I had a personal relationship with the guys that were
Right.
playing baseball and football. And then as soon as I left there, I found myself feeling so freed because I no longer cared about those things.
Right.
And it was right around the time that I left there that my girls were really getting into sports. And it- I have gotten more amped, more excited at
Oh.
7-year-old soccer game than I ever did in the front row of this game. Um,
Right.
yeah, so really it's about my kids' sports, and I'm sure that all the parents out there that have kids in sports can relate to that a ton because it's so funny how all of a sudden NFL is nothing and like second grade basketball is
What you live for.
what I'm really pulling for on a Saturday. Yeah, so
That's cute.
it's fun.
Well, what about, I meant to ask you this a little bit earlier, but what's one of your favorite local restaurants or foods to enjoy?
Um, I go through phases and I have not really been to too many restaurants lately. I will
Mhm.
say you and I had dinner recently and I have to just, commend that place. We went to Agave and
Agave
Rye
and rye.
and
Mhm.
it's so good. Um, and
I
I
could
mean,
eat
I think any
breakfast, lunch,
Mexican
and
food,
dinner
yeah,
multiple times a
it's
week.
so good. Yeah. But like I said, I kind of go through phases. Right now, this is such a basic answer, but besides Mexican, which will always be an answer,
Yeah.
I just get in phases where like sushi is all I could eat that every day
Yes.
right now. It sounds good all the time. My girls like it now.
Are you
Um,
adventurous with it, or do you keep it pretty
yeah, I'm pretty adventurous.
traditional?
Yeah, there's just like one select group of foods that I don't like, and beyond that, I'm kind of willing to try anything as long as it doesn't have this small list of ingredients in it. So,
Sure. Right. Well, we are winding down our time. So I got just a few more questions, and one of which is exciting because I know you're also a music lover. What's
yeah,
one of the best concerts that you've been to? Remember concerts?
so I don't know if you saw my post, but I live right behind a high school, and for me, the quarantine, the pandemic, the thing that I miss most, more than restaurants, more than networking, is seeing concerts.
Oh,
that's really what I like to do in my spare time. But I live behind a high school and they have started marching band practice. So my girls and I have been taking walks over there to just watch the marching band.
aw,
Our, like,
that's
live
fun.
music. But as far as my favorites go, I remember my answer to the first time we did this, and it was the Lumineers, and that still stands out to me as one of the best concerts. But I have had the opportunity to see so many good concerts, and I don't. My daughter asked me this the other day, and I said, I think it's so much easier to tell you about one or two bad ones that I've been to because they're so few and far between that they stuck out. But at this point, literally, I could go see any band and it would be the best concert I've ever seen.
I will tell you, I remember, and I don't know if it's because maybe when you worked at the banks, or maybe it was just shortly thereafter, but you and a very big group of your high school friends went and saw New Kids on the Block, and was it
Not
like,
every year.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's my life. Like that
Yeah.
was me 20 years ago. I would love to
That
be
was my first concert that I ever.
KOTV.
Yeah, 1988. That was my first concert.
That was my first concert too.
Yeah. But
Yep.
yeah, and that's like I have so many different traditions that revolve around concerts too, with different friend groups. And
Right.
now my girls have started going with me. So
Aw,
yeah.
super fun.
Yeah.
And I keep muting a little bit because somebody's doing their weed eating out my window. So I apologize if you hear that loud noise. But okay, just a couple more questions. Um, Best vacation or vacation on the horizon when this nonsense is done?
I don't have any vacations on the horizon. Now is just not the time for me, and I'm totally fine with that. I'd rather hold off for something bigger.
Right.
Um, but I thought about this question, and it's just like concerts. It's hard for me to pin down one great thing. Um, my mom moved to Florida a couple years ago, and she flew and allowed or asked my sister and I to drive her car down there. And we had a specific time frame, but not super specific. So we kind of just hopped in her car, loaded up with the last of her things, and truly hit go and decided on the road, like, where should we stop tonight? Let's stop in Asheville. So we like stopped in Asheville and spent a day and a night there. And then we woke up in the morning and we're like, today's the day, we're just going to get to Florida. And like on the way there, we saw a sign for Hilton Head and we're like, let's go to the beach and go to Savannah for the day. And Mom, do you care if we're another day late? So we, and this was in our adult lives. This was just a couple years ago. So it was really, really cool. And I always talk about, I've been able to travel pretty significantly, nothing crazy. And I haven't been out of the country besides Canada and Mexico. But my three favorite cities are all S cities. They're Savannah, Georgia, and St. Augustine, Florida, and Santa Barbara, California. And they're all kind of similar. If you've been to all three, you know that they all kind of have a similar vibe, but I will always suggest going back to one of those cities if I can. And then there's
That's awesome.
a gazillion places that I still want to go. So
I've only been to Savannah out of those three, but it
oh
was
gosh,
amazing.
yeah, Savannah. Yeah, I mean, they're all pretty historical and quaint and beautiful and oceanside and
Mhm.
just cool.
Fun. And I love nothing more than random adventures. Like it is
Yes.
my favorite thing in life. Actually, I'll tell you offline as to not take up more time in this, but the most random fun thing happened this week. But that story about you and your sister, like how
Yeah.
could you even ever replicate that? Like what
Well,
random?
mom's moving back now, so Carrie and I are kind of like holding out that maybe she's
Ooh.
to get her car back. And we
There you go.
yeah.
But the things that happen that you can't even plan for, it's just
Yeah.
like such an amazing experience. So I love that answer. Good. All right. So two more things, Rachel. One random fun fact about you that we wouldn't otherwise know have we not sat down and had this weekly member spotlight.
Okay, here goes. I'm such an oversharer, and I forgot to prepare for this.
That's why I like you so much.
Yeah. So I used to not have any tattoos, and I had a really strong reason for it. I have since gotten two because they're my daughter's names, but my like funny reason was that I have a birthmark that is shaped exactly like a heart. And I'm not going to show you all. It's on the back of my knee, but it's a perfect heart, like just naturally. So
Wow.
I mean, my
How
mom,
big?
maybe like, oh gosh, I don't know, not huge.
Yeah.
You would have to point it out to you.
Wow.
You would notice right away, but it is definitely in a perfect heart shape, and it's just on the back of my knee. So that used to be like, I'm not kidding, I don't need any tattoos.
Yeah, that's funny. If that's not a random fun fact, I don't know what
That's
is.
what only Rachel Gill would share
I know,
something
right?
like that on this interview.
That's hilarious. All right. So last question, although I do at the end invite you, if there's anything you want to say, round out from a professional perspective, I want to invite you to do that. But I want to ask, how do you think all of us who have known you and worked with you in your 13-year industry career, how do you think we would describe you as a professional?
I mean, that's such a tough question. I
Especially if you're humble.
yeah, I don't know that anyone would describe me as humble, but I think one word that I hear a lot that I used to take negatively that I've kind of grown into is passionate.
Mhm.
I think that's why I think that's what makes me an asset, especially to a company, is if I am working for you or if I'm selling a product, it's not because I need a job, it's because I am really excited about it. I feel very powerful about what I'm selling or the people I'm spending time with. And I can remember hearing that when I was younger in a bad way,
Mhm.
thinking like reel it
In
in a
an
little bit.
inconvenient way,
In
right?
an inconvenient way. And I'm sure at times I have made people feel a little uncomfortable, but I think society has evolved into accepting that more. And I've grown up and matured into being able to translate that more professionally and, more productively. So definitely passionate, definitely friendly and outgoing. I think it takes a lot to get me really riled up. And I kind of pride myself on that. And what I hope people know about me, what I want to portray to others is that I'm someone who is gracious and has an extraordinary ability to put myself in their shoes. I think that that is sometimes I can do it to a fault because sometimes people probably need to be put in their place and I'll make excuses for them because I'm so ready to see it from their perspective. But more often than not, I think especially as a supplier in this industry, being able to kind of recognize where people are coming from and try to provide a solution for that is probably what I hope people are saying about me. So,
Well, I would underscore and put in bold every single thing you just said, and then some. I really appreciate all you do for the association and appreciate the friendship that we have, and appreciate your time today, Rachel. I think the passionate summary is absolutely right, and that's the beauty of being able to be comfortable in your own skin is like, if it's
sure,
worth being passionate about, be passionate about it, right?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
if it's not, let someone else be passionate about it. So I love
Thank
that so much. Any parting words about Greenway? I know we gave out your email address. This is going to be live. Please share
Sure.
and like it, engage, because I know everyone's super excited that you
Yeah.
small hiatus, but you're back. And I want to say thank you for your support in the social media committee. You've just been an absolute game changer in that committee and have so much, I think, because of what you do and how you've really mastered the art of getting the best of social media, not the worst of social media,
Mhm.
both personally and professionally. It's really helped this association in the last couple of years, having that committee do what we've been able to do, which is just bring people together.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is something that I'm definitely passionate about. And when used appropriately in the right way, it really is beneficial for both the people that are putting the content out there and the people that are receiving the content. And as long as everyone keeps that in mind, it's such a valuable tool. I kind of pinch myself often thinking, I can't believe sometimes I'm trusted with these responsibilities.
I know, right?
I have those moments where I think this is, I just can't believe that people think I'm an expert on something or that but it makes me proud. It makes me proud of the team that we've kind of built for ourselves in this association. As far as last words on Greenway, it is truly a product and a service that I feel very passionately about. There's just, without getting too technical, there are just so many ways that it kind of elevates your property's appearance and value, both on the reputation side and financially. If you're struggling, this is definitely a solution to explore because it is income generating, as well as one of the most sought after amenities that residents are searching for right now. And your competitors are probably already using it. So keep that in mind. And on the association side, Melissa, of course, thank you. I think there were a few moments where I forgot we were on Facebook Live and I was just talking to my friend.
I know.
I think that the association's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing letting them talk? It's an hour has gone
Michelle's
by.
going to delete this live stream.
But thank you. Thank you for always giving me the time and the opportunity to showcase myself and my company. As someone, again, who's just starting out in a new role, there's little more importance than getting yourself and your information out there. And this association and you and Mark and Abby and everyone has always been so accommodating to me. I don't know that I've ever heard a no when I've asked for something. And so I always try to return that favor. And if anyone is watching this and it looks super fun, odds are you're going to get the chance to talk to one of us. So come on an interview with one of us because we would
Yes.
have more of these chats.
So excited that you're back, and thank you again. This has been fantastic. I hope you have a really great weekend, and I hope I get to see you soon, not virtually necessarily. I know we've got that on the books, but
Yes.
I look forward to catching up with
With
you
our
again
kids.
very soon.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you
You too.
so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.